On March 18th, the first truckloads of sand were delivered for a beach replenishment project along the Delaware Bay in New Jersey. The beaches are used by horseshoe crabs to lay their eggs during the spring. Those eggs provide the food source for red knots and thousands of other migrating shorebirds.
What we're trying to do is replace the sand that was lost from Hurricane Sandy. The sand that was lost was dramatic. I mean, the beach just basically lowered 2 feet, and what that did was cause the intertidal zone to fall in the vegetation. Like over here, you could see there's a shelf of sod, so there's basically no horseshoe crab spawning habitat. And so now what we're doing is bringing in sand, and we're going to try to mimic the old beach that was here. It's going to add up to just less than a mile of beach. And if we're successful, what we're attempting, we're going to end up with better beach here than was here last year. So we're going to be improving things.
This beach rebuilding project also includes the cleanup of debris.
The debris, there's debris on all Delaware Bay beaches because people have been trying to live on Delaware Bay for generations and failing because the bay constantly erodes, and then these houses are left stranded. And usually what happens is people trying to fight the bay build up rubble and bulkheads and all kinds of stuff, and then they're gone, but all that rubble remains. And so that stops the crabs from being able to either get up on the beach, or when they're on the beach, it stops them from laying eggs. And so when Sandy came and took away all the sand, it exposed all these piles of rubble and pilings that were left over from those old days. And so as our effort to restore this beach, we're taking up all the rubble and the pilings in the hope that that'll remove that problem for crabs as well as the lack of sand.
The horseshoe crabs have begun their annual spring march onto the Delaware Bay beaches in Cape May County. The ancient animals are unaware of the frenetic work that took place over the last 7 weeks to restore these beaches so the crabs could lay their eggs. Last fall, Superstorm Sandy wiped away the sand down to the hard foundation. Hundreds of truckloads of sand were delivered to fill about a mile stretch of beaches. The sand grain size and the slope of the beaches had to meet specific standards.
What they're looking for, they have chemoreceptors on their legs, which help them determine if there's peat very close to where they're laying their eggs. You don't want anoxic mucks and hydrogen sulfide coming up and causing problems for the eggs. So they're trying to lay their nests where it's well oxygenated, there's no peat very close to the surface that might hamper egg development. And that's what crabs are doing. Now, when other crabs come up, they unearth the nests of previously laid eggs by other crabs. So that's what brings the eggs to the surface for shorebirds, as well as wave action and other things.
Crews faced a biological deadline to complete the work before the crabs' arrival. By early May, researchers began seeing positive signs.
In the beaches that we've created that are around the creek mouths, we're getting good spawning.
Creating horseshoe crab habitat also included removing the pilings and other debris unearthed by Superstorm Sandy. At Pierce's Point, crews with the Cape May County Mosquito Control Commission removed these structures from the surf.
There's some old structure from when the beach was actually part of the salt marsh. Since the beach has migrated over the years toward the tidal marshes, now these structures are now exposed on the waterward side of the beach.
A coalition of conservation groups, government agencies, and funders came together to undertake this project. The Delaware Bay has the largest population of horseshoe crabs in the world, making it unique and a key feeding ground for migrating shorebirds.
They need a beach of a certain level, certain gradient, with certain kinds of grains of sand, and there's only a handful of beaches that meet that description here. So this is a critical area for horseshoe crabs, and because it's where the horseshoe crabs lay their eggs, it's a critical beach for shorebirds to feed on those eggs.
Hundreds of thousands of shorebirds come here to feed on the crab eggs on their way from South America to the Arctic. Volunteers capture and ban red knots so researchers can track their movements.
But actually getting to hold a bird in your hands and know like that this little tiny thing with a really fast beating heart came from what is basically the other end of the globe is phenomenal. And then watching it fly away when you let it go.
As this coalition enjoys the success of this program, there is still concern over a call by some to lift New Jersey's ban on harvesting horseshoe crabs for bait. The moratorium was enacted after over-harvesting of the crabs caused a steep drop in the population.
So I believe it is too soon. The moratorium has been effective, but we've hardly recovered to a point where the moratorium should be lifted.
I mean, we have a crab population that's at a very low level still, and doesn't show signs of recovering. But now with these habitat losses, we're talking about reduced carrying capacity for that population. So increasing a harvest right at the time the population has lost a major component of habitat is a big mistake.
The decline in the horseshoe crab numbers have also caused a severe drop in the red knot population. 7 environmental groups have petitioned the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to place the red knot on the federal endangered species list and are urging the agency to move quickly before it's too late.
You know, the pressure is on, the pressure is built every year, and that endangered species designation is really vital for ensuring that the red knot population doesn't tip over the edge and fall into the morass that is extinction. We need to list the red knot today so we can get in place the critical protections we need to ensure that they do not, in fact, become extinct.
This restoration project also includes a social outreach program.
What we're trying to do is build a pride, a sense of place among these communities, among the people who live here, so that they understand their value in the big scheme of things for this amazing phenomenon, and that understanding benefits their own quality of life, so that they gain from living and protecting this resource that is so important at a global scale.
That's the sunny.
Whoa, that's a strong one.
Getting outside near the water is important for children and teenagers.
So over the past 20 years, there's been a growth where children have spent more time inside and also in front of multimedia tools, which are great, but that doesn't create the relationship that's really needed to foster an appreciation and love for the earth.
Research shows that spending time in the natural environment has physical and psychological benefits for children. One British study found that less than 20% of the youth in that country were spending time outdoors. Education specialists at the Stroud Water Research Center in Pennsylvania say they see a difference once kids start interacting with nature.
When they come, they're very excited, for one, but they really don't know how to be outside. They fear a lot of what's going on outside in the earth. They don't really know how to relate to nature and the environment. But after we've had them for about 4 hours, we can see a big transformation. They're a little bit more peaceful, more calm. They seem more grounded and more strong in just being outside.
Experts say time outdoors also sparks creativity. You could see that spark of imagination in the work of a young Camden girl who had the winning entry in a poster contest that featured messages on protecting water quality.
I want to tell people about water, that I think they should keep it clean, so some of it for us, it can be healthy for us to drink. I think we should have fresh water so our animals can stay alive.
But getting out there near lakes, rivers, or streams, especially in some urban areas, may be tough. Camden County, New Jersey is heavily developed. Several streams and rivers run through the region.
Well, they're just forgotten parts of the city. Historically, they were used as dumping grounds or they were industrial backyards. And it's only in recent years, I think, that people have started to appreciate them for what they have to offer.
Mike Fernandez is writing a book about canoeing the rivers and streams in New Jersey. He says a lack of access is a problem you find in many cities. An example, this spot along the Cooper River in Camden.
It certainly seems like it would be nice. The riverbank is relatively gentle here compared to other places. But on the way in, it's posted against trespassing, no unauthorized vehicles allowed. So I suspect we're trespassing at the moment.
There may also be a hesitance among some children and teens to explore the open spaces near their homes.
Like people, they would want that space to themselves, and like if you try to go in there, like some people, they wouldn't allow you to go in there.
Faith Croma lives near the Cooper River, and despite the visible neglect, has developed a personal connection with the waterway.
Because it's where I live and it's a part of my community. And it also has a lot of history behind it, so you get to learn a lot. So learning is really important.
The Urban Trekkers program in Camden works to reconnect youth with waterways by getting them involved with boat building.
Camden has such a rich history of boat building, and it's a city born of the water, and it was just like, my gosh, why hadn't somebody already done this before?
Walnut.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And then the bottom is a plywood. It's an akume plywood. It's a tree that is fast growing in Africa. Very few branches, and so there's no knots or rings or any of that kind of stuff. So
more than building boats, it's about really building character and seeing the transformation that takes place in the young people throughout that process.
Here, don't do that.
Another important result, the participants gain a different perspective on where they live.
I didn't even look at them the way that I look at them now before I was a part of this program. So for example, on my bus route, there's a tower and there's a bridge, and only thing I thought about it as was a way on my bus ride to school. But I went with Jim on a boat paddling trip, and we went on the boat we went under it, and I realized that this place looked familiar. And once I realized that this was my bus route, but I was actually rowing under it, I just thought about where I live in a different way.
The U.S. Census Bureau shows population shifting back to the cities. More people will be seeking access to green spaces. In our next segment, we'll look at efforts to improve access to waterways.
Looking good, guys. Looking good.
Easier. And
a group of herpetologists from East Stroudsburg University spent a June weekend searching through the woods, under logs, and in swampy areas for frogs, salamanders, newts, turtles, and snakes.
Spotted salamander larva.
We found quite a few species so far. We found several salamanders, the northern red salamander, the eastern red spotted newts. We found redback salamanders, the mountain dusky.
The event was held at the 10-mile River Boy Scout camp along the Upper Delaware in Tustin, New York. 9 teams of scientists spent 2 days identifying more than 800 different types of plant and animal species.
The fact that you have different types of lakes and ponds and swampy areas is a really good sign because you're giving a lot of habitat options to all of the macroinvertebrates and any other type of living organism that wants to be here. So you're going to see very high biodiversity in an area like this.
One goal of this event is to get youth involved with learning about nature.
Got him.
Whenever they go out and go into the world, the natural world, and turn over a rock or find a plant, that's an act of discovery. And the way that they are going to learn and we are going to learn about the world is by more people going out.
The more bugs you have, the cleaner the environment is, basically. Mm-hmm.
On the last day of the event, the public was invited to come see what the scientists had collected, including the macroinvertebrates that live in the Delaware River and the waterways tributaries.
That one's scary?
Well, he won't hurt you though, but he's a hellgrammite, and fishermen really like to use hellgrammites, and he only lives in clean water.
In the coming weeks, we'll have more on the Upper Delaware BioBlitz.